Long ago, in the year 5400 BC, Endubsar, a master scribe of the ancient city of Eridu, survived and escaped a great cataclysm on Earth. Endubsar was a loyal servant and scribe of the royal extraterrestrial Enki, the Anunnaki prince, and a prominent leader among the Anunnaki gods who were alien visitors with advanced technology. The following passage of Tablet 1 reads, "These are the true first-hand accounts and words of Endubsar, master and chief scribe of Eridu. In the 7th year of our Lord after the great calamity, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day, I was summoned by my master, the Lord Enki, great God, benevolent fashioner of mankind, omnipotent and merciful. I was among the remnants of Eridu who had escaped to the arid steppe just as the evil wind was nearing the city, and I wandered off into the wilderness to seek withered twigs for firewood. And I looked up, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the south. There was a reddish brilliance about it, and it made no sound. And as it reached the ground, 4 straight feet spread out from its belly, and the brilliance disappeared. And I threw myself to the ground and prostrated myself, for I knew that it was a divine vision. And when I lifted my eyes, there were 2 divine emissaries standing near me, and they had the faces of men, and their garments were sparkling like burnished brass. And they called me by name and spoke to me, saying, 'You are summoned by the great Lord God Enki. Fear not, for you are blessed, and we are here to take you aloft and carry you unto his retreat in the land of Magan, on the island amidst the river of Magan, where the sluices are.' And as they spoke, the whirlwind lifted itself as a fiery chariot and was gone. And they took me by my hands, each one grasping me by one hand, and they lifted me and carried me swiftly between the earth and the heavens, as the eagle soars. And I could see the land, the waters, the plains, and the mountains. Then they let me down on the island, at the gateway of the great God's abode. And the moment they let go of my hands, a brilliance as I had never seen before engulfed and overwhelmed me, and I collapsed on the ground as though voided of the spirit of life. My life senses returned to me, as if awakened from the deepest sleep by the sound of the calling of my name. I was in some kind of an enclosure. It was dark, but there was also an aura. Then my name was called again, by the deepest of voices, and although I could hear it, I could not tell whence the voice came, nor could I see whoever it was that spoke. And I said, 'Here I am.' Then the voice said to me, 'Endubsar, offspring of Adapa, I have chosen you to be my scribe, that you write down my words on the tablets.' And all at once there appeared a glowing in one part of the enclosure. And I saw a place arranged like a scribal workplace, a scribe's table and a scribe's stool, and there were finely shaped stones upon the table. But I saw no clay tablets, nor containers of wet clay, and there lay upon the table only one stylus, and it glistened in the glowing as no reed stylus ever did. And the voice spoke up again, saying, 'Endubsar, son of Eridu city, my faithful servant, I am your Lord Enki. I have summoned you to write down my words, for I am much distraught by what has befallen mankind by the great calamity. It is my wish to record the true course of the events, to let gods and men alike know that my hands are clean. Not since the great and first flood had such a calamity befallen the gods and the earthlings. But the great flood was destined to happen, not so the great calamity. This one need not have happened. It could have been prevented, and I, Enki, did all I could to prevent it. Alas, I failed. In the future shall it be judged, for at the end of days a day of judgment for my people there shall be. It is for this reason that I will tell the true account of the beginnings and of the prior times and of the olden times, for in the past the future lies hidden. For 40 days and 40 nights shall I speak, and you will write. 40 shall be the count of the days and the nights of your task here, for 40 is my sacred number among the gods. For 40 days and 40 nights you shall neither eat nor drink. Only this once of bread and water you shall partake, and it shall sustain you for the duration of your task." And the voice paused, and all at once there appeared a glowing in another part of the enclosure, and I saw a table and upon it a plate and a cup. And I rose up there too, and there was bread on the plate and water in the cup. And the voice of the great Lord Enki spoke up again, saying, Endubsar, eat the bread and drink the water, and be sustained for 40 days and 40 nights. And I did as directed. And thereafter the voice directed me to sit myself at the scribble table, and the glowing there intensified. I could see neither door nor aperture where I was, yet the glowing was as strong as the midday sun. And the voice said, Endubsar the scribe, what do you see? And I looked and saw the glowing raid upon the table, and the stones and the stylus. And I said, I see stone tablets, and their hue is blue as pure as the sky. And the voice said, These are the tablets upon which you shall inscribe my words. By my wish, they have been cut of the finest lapis lazuli, each with 2 smooth faces provided. And the stylus you see is a god's handiwork, its handle made of electrum and its tip of divine crystal. It shall firmly fit in your hand, and what you shall engrave with it shall be as easy as marking upon wet clay. In 2 columns you shall inscribe the front face. In 2 columns you shall inscribe the back of each stone tablet. Do not deviate from my words and utterances. And there was a pausing, and I touched one of the stones, and the surface felt like smooth skin, soft to the touch. And I picked up the holy stylus, and it felt like a feather in my hand. And then the great god Enki began to speak, and I began to write down his words exactly as he had spoken them. At times his voice was strong, at times almost a whisper. At times there was joy or pride in his voice, and at times pain or agony. And as one tablet was inscribed on all its faces, I took another to continue. And when the final words were spoken, the great god paused, and I could hear a great sigh, and he said, Endubsar, my servant, for 40 days and 40 nights you have faithfully recorded my words. Your task here is completed. Now take hold of another tablet, and on it you shall write your own attestation, and at the end thereof, as a witness of this event, mark it with your seal, and take the tablet and put it together with the other tablets in the divine chest. For at a designated time chosen ones shall come hither, and they shall find the chest and the tablets, and they shall learn all that I have dictated to you. And that the true account of the beginnings and the prior times and the olden times and the great calamity shall henceforth be known as the words of the Lord Enki. And it shall be a book of witnessing the lost past in the future times. And there was a pause, and I took the tablets and put them one by one, in their correct order, in the chest. And the chest was made of acacia wood, and it was inlaid with gold on the outside. And the voice of my Lord said, Now close the chest's cover and fasten its lock, and I did as directed. And there was another pause, and my Lord Enki said, And as for you, Endubsar, with a great God you have spoken, and though you have not seen me, in my presence you have been. Therefore you are blessed, and my spokesman to the people you shall be. You shall admonish them to be righteous, for in that lies a good and long life. And you shall comfort them. For in 70 years the cities will be rebuilt, and the crops shall sprout again. There will be peace, but there will also be wars. New nations will become mighty. Kingdoms shall rise and fall. The olden gods shall step aside, and new gods shall decree the fates. But at the end of days, destiny shall prevail, and of that future it is foretold in my words about the past. Of all that, Endubsar, to the people you shall tell. And there was a pause and a silence, and I, Endubsar, bowed to the ground and said, But how will I know what to say? And the voice of the Lord Enki said, The signs will be in the heavens, and the words to utter shall come to you in dreams and in visions. And then there was silence, and the auras were extinguished, and the spirit left me. And when I regained my senses, I was in the fields outside Eridu. Seal of Endubsar, Master Scribe. These are the words of the Lord Enki, firstborn son of Anu, who reigns on Nibiru. Here is the account of the prior times and olden times. a history and overview of the Anunnaki Atlantean civilization and the chronicles to Earth that occurred. Long ago, before the prior times was the beginning. After the prior times were the olden times. In the olden times, the gods came to Earth and engineered the Earthlings. In the prior times, none of the gods were on Earth, nor were the Earthlings yet engineered. In the prior times, the abode of the gods was on their own planet, Nibiru its name, a great wide orbiting planet, reddish in radiance, creating an extended orbit around the sun. There are times that Nibiru is involved in cold, and other times that the bright sun shines again. Nibiru is involved with a thick atmosphere. This atmosphere is constantly fueled by volcanic eruptions. In the cold period, the atmosphere keeps the heat, like a coat that covers the entire planet. In the warm period, the atmosphere protects Nibiru. In the middle periods, between heat and cold times, the rains gain strength, offering consistency to lakes and rivers. Nibiru is covered in lush vegetation that feeds and protects the atmosphere. From them, all kinds of life arouse in both the waters and land, due to the Pleiadians that seeded the planet millions years before for evolving life. After aeons of time, a forgotten royal hybrid race found refuge on empty Nibiru after being exiled from all other civilizations. This was due to the rejection of their mixed heritage of Draconian and Lyran ancestry. It was there our people gave ourselves the name Atlanteans. Over time, the Atlanteans of Nibiru multiplied and took place in the valleys, plains, and mountains. They set up homes, built cities, and civilizations began. It was then, at this time period, millions of races left the Orion and Pleiadian star clusters due to the wars and came to Nibiru for refuge. Our society is one of many people of numerous civilizations, and our ancestors welcomed them. However, rivalries began to occur. Brother amassed against brother, clans gathered into tribes. Then two polar nations of Atlanteans of Nibiru were established. The nation of the north against the nation of the south took up arms and set up weapons of terror against each other. Death and destruction swept across the lands both north and south. Destruction overtook all of Nibiru. For a long time, desolation took place on Nibiru. In time, the Anunnaki Atlanteans' history and interstellar connections faded into myths. However, during the ensuing era of wars on Nibiru, they reclaimed much of their lost technological prowess and consciousness. Sacred remnants of their past, including ancient nuclear warheads and advanced lasers, were revered and meticulously studied, leading to renewed scientific advancements. By this time, of discovering their relics of the past and finished with the constant battling from both sides, the North and South nations decided to declare a truce, and soon cries of peace arose everywhere. Nations shall unite, and only one throne shall there be on Nibiru. Let there be one king to rule them all, they declared. The chosen king should be of native Atlantean blood to the north or the south. A consort would also be chosen, but from the opposite region. Thus, North and South would be united in the figures of a monarchal king and queen. Husband and wife were one flesh, and the child born of their union would be the successor. With a new royal dynasty would soon be formed. The one chosen to rule was a mighty warrior and commander from the north. By lots, true and fair, was he chosen. His decrees in unity were accepted. For his abode he built a great city called Agadi, meaning unity. He was given the title of An, which means celestial. Thus, order was re-established in the lands, laws, and regulations. For his spouse the south a maiden had chosen, for both love and warring she was noted. Antu was her royal title, the leader who is An's spouse, the given name meant. She bore 3 sons and no daughters. The firstborn son was by her named Enki. Enki remained alone on the throne, even though the concubines who came to the palace did not bear him children. Thus, the dynasty that had just begun was interrupted as soon as he died. The middle son, though not the firstborn, was named the rightful heir. he received the title of Anib, which means the one in the middle, to justify his position among the brothers. Anib married Ninib, which means the Lady of Ib. Together they had a son named Anshagal, the successor to the throne and the fourth of the kings to rule Nibiru. His wife was his half-sister Kishagal. Of his reign had been the greatest legacy. His intention and goals was to unify the people. And he did it when the northern feast and the southern feast that served everyone. It was in the reign of Anshagal and Kishagal that the law of husband and wife, and of sons and of daughters, was created. These customs of the first tribes of Nibiru were established to be followed. The law had been written. It stated that a woman should be chosen as an official wife, and this was the first wife. From the many wars, females greatly outnumbered the males. Decrees were made. One male was to have more than one female. By law, one wife as official spouse would be chosen. She would be known as the first wife. By law, the firstborn son would be his father's successor. Confusions, disputes, and wars did not take long to be created. If the firstborn son was not from the first wife's, but the second son was who would be the legitimate heir. In Anshagal's reign, concubines were once again brought into the royal palace. And so, the concubines had sons and daughters. Sometime later, the legitimate wife Kishagal had a son. By law, the son of Anshagal and Kishagal was the rightful heir, though not the firstborn. Kishagal, his mother, Anshagal's true and lawful wife, shouted angrily, "If according to the laws my son of a firstborn wife is deprived of the succession, do not let the double seed be neglected. Although from different mothers, the king and I are descended from the same father, the king before him. I am the king's half-sister, and from me the king is also half-brother. So my son has the double seed of our father, Anib. Let, in succession, the law of the seed over the law of marriage prevail. Let, in succession, the son of a half-sister, whenever he is born, rise above others in succession." And Anshargal the king decided as Kishagal, his wife and half-sister, had said. Their son, though not the firstborn, was proclaimed the next king. The law of seed had been adopted for succession, and thus the divergence between lawful wife and concubine had been decided. The new king was given the title of Enshar, the fifth on Nibiru's throne. Enshar took his half-sister named Kishar as his wife, and so, even if Enshar had children by the concubines, the rightful heir would be the son of the king and queen. During his reign, Nibiru's fields reduced their harvests, and much of the food source lost their abundance. From cycle to cycle, from Shah to Shah, the problems grew more and more. In time, sages and scholars had been called to investigate what was happening. Some said it had happened before, and on that time it was happening again. That was Nibiru's destiny, they said. Others concluded that a hole had appeared in the atmosphere, and that volcanoes no longer erupted as before, which made the air more tenuous, and Nibiru's protective shield considerably reduced its level of efficiency. Under these conditions, the sixth king had assumed the throne. Enshar was his name, son of Anshar and Kishar, and his name meant noble master of the Shah. Enshar studied rigorously and looked for an answer in other planets and atmospheres. He gave the planets different names, honoring their ancestors and kings before him. Enshar named the region near the sun the Hammered Bracelet and announced that the region was protected from intruders by various asteroids. Enshar continued studying, looking for a salvation for the people of Nibiru. But from Shah to Shah, which is 3,000 Earth years each, the hole grew more and more. The scholars on their councils discussed what to do, but there seemed to be no solution. Someone had pronounced the idea to try artificially stimulate volcanoes to produce new eruptions to resolve the hole in the atmosphere. Nevertheless, on Enshar's reign, the hole only grew. It felt like some kind of curse. The rains did not occur, the winds blew stronger, and the springs did not emerge. As his first wife, Enshar's half-sister and queen Ninshar did not bear any children. Then by a concubine of Enshar, a son was born. The firstborn son he was. By Ninshar, first wife and half-sister, a son was not brought forth. By the law of succession, the concubine's son the throne ascended. The seventh to reign he was. Du-Uru was his royal name. In the dwelling place fashioned was its meaning. In the house of concubines, not in the palace, was he indeed conceived. As his spouse a maiden from his youth beloved Duru, he chose as his selected first wife, and not a wife by seed. Dauru was her royal name. Confusion then took place. In the royal palace, children were not heirs and wives were not half-sisters. As if this fact were not enough, sons and daughters of the king were not even born. The royal confusion had spread far and wide, like the hole in Nibiru's atmosphere that grew more and more. Desperate Duru, the seventh seed of An, along with his wife Doru, decided to adopt a boy. They named him Llama and pronounced him the rightful heir who was subsequently made king. Sages and scholars eventually came to a solution to the new king, Llama. Gold, they shouted to King Llama, the only element that is durable and non-corrosive. If ground to a fine powder, pulverized in the air, it could become suspended, and thus the gap could close, offering the necessary protection. Gold, the sages said, was abundant near the hammered bracelet of the Milky Way galaxy quadrant. And from this moment on, advanced and massive technological spaceships began to be built. Another group suggested the use of weapons of terror, launching missiles at volcanoes to stimulate their atmosphere. But Llama, the king of Nibiru, did not take action. And then Nibiru counted one Shah. And then another Shah. Conflicts stretched across the kingdom. Food and water were scarce. At the royal court, sages came and went. But the king did not listen to advisors and sages, only to his wife, Lahama. The third and fourth Shah passed, and the count already reached 14,400 years, if we counted Earth's time. Let us supplicate for the Creator of all. Let's plead with the Creator of all instead of acting, advised the king's wife. But the people, the sages, and the advisors were desperate. Something needed to be done. We need a decision, a definition, said the crowd in protest. And it was a prince of ancient heritage who first touched weapons and begun a rebellion against Llama. He announced that a new time had arrived and urged others to follow him. The prince's name was Alalu and was the eldest of the four princes. Llama shall no longer be the king, said Alalu. From now on, I will be king. We shall attack Llama and make him leave the throne. The other princes followed, and a chase began inside the great palace. Finally, at the Tower of Nibiru, Alalu found Llama and faced him in a battle of which only one of the two would be alive. The warrior Alalu won the battle and killed Llama. Then he proclaimed himself the king, beyond any advisor or law. Alalu is now the new king. The priests and sages announced. Alalu was not wrong. Llama was at least an adopted son of one of the generations of An, and a new time had begun. Who was Alalu? Was he a legal heir? Was he firstborn? By what right did he usurp? Was he not a kingslayer? Before the seven who judges, Alalu was summoned, his fate to be considered. Before the seven who judge, Alalu spread his pleas. Though neither legal heir nor a firstborn, a son of royal seed indeed he still was. Of Enshar, I am descended, before the judges he claimed. Via concubine, my ancestor was born to him. Alam was his name. By the count of Shahs, Alam was the firstborn. The throne to him was belonged. By the queen, his rights were put aside. A law of the seed she created, for her son the kingship was obtained. My forefather Alam of kingship was deprived. To her son instead, it was granted. By descent of Alam's generations, I was conceived. The seed of Enshar is within me. The seven who judged to Alalu's words gave heed. To the council of counselors they passed the matter, truth or falsehood to ascertain. The royal annals from the House of Records were brought forth. With much care, they were read. Enshar was a firstborn, the throne he ascended. Of him I am descended. Alalu to the counselors he cried out. By the law of succession to him, kingship belonged. With hesitation, the counselors made Alalu swear an oath of truth. Alalu swore the oath of life or death as king. They then summoned the elders, and they summoned the 3 other princes before them. From among the princes, a young, strong and wise prince stepped forward. The young prince objected their decision of Alalu. Succession must be reconsidered to the assembly, he said. Of the purest of seed I am descended. The essence of An in me is preserved, by no concubine diluted. The counselors heard the words with amazement. The prince was summoned to come closer. They asked for his name. It is Anu, after my great forefather An, I was named. They inquired about his generations of An. Anu then reminded them of the 3 sons of An. Enuru is my great ancestor, the eldest son of An. The counselors with wonderment looked at each other. He is of pure descent, the generations continued, by law and by seed which is perfect. Anu, after our forefather An, did my parents name me. From the throne we were removed, but from An's pure seed we were not removed. Let Anu be king, many counselors shouted. Let Alalu be removed. But others urged caution. Let's call for Alalu as well. And Alalu opened his arms to receive Anu, the prince. We are from different descents, but we have the royal seed. Together we will bring abundance back to Nibiru. May I retain the throne, and you may be my successor. Let your eldest son marry my daughter to unify the succession, and so by common consent, Alalu would remain on the throne as the rightful heir. Prince Anu would become a cupbearer to Alalu and his successor in waiting. That was the council's decision, and in the royal annals it was inscribed. He ordered to build more celestial ships and more missionaries to search for gold in the hammered bracelet to save their dying planet Nibiru. But it was reported that none of the previous ships and missionaries has returned from the hammered bracelet. Then Alalu commanded to hurl the weapons of terror onto the volcanoes, so Nibiru's bowels may open. Mountains swayed, valleys shuddered, but the rain refused to fall and the winds gusted. The Atlantean civilization was once more in peril again, on the brink of destruction. In the royal palace, Anu was treated as a servant of Alalu, and not as a prince or successor, as he was due. And in cities, the people of Nibiru no longer worshipped their king. Instead of relief, Alalu brought only misery. And yet on the throne he remained. After the 9th Shah of Alalu's reign, Anu gave battle to Alalu. To hand-to-hand combat, with bodies naked as it was the great Atlantean tradition of their forefathers. Alalu he challenged. Let the winner be king, Anu said. They grappled with each other in the public square of the main city Agade. Doorposts trembled and walls shook. Alalu defeated, then bent his knee to the ground as he fell on his chest. Alalu in hand-to-hand combat was defeated by Anu. Anu was now hailed as King Anu and was escorted to the throne room. Alalu did not return to the palace, and in all the commotion he stealthily escaped through the crowds, fearing that Anu might have him killed. Unbeknownst to others, the place of the celestial ships he hurriedly went. Into a missile-throwing chariot Alalu climbed. Its hatch behind him he closed. The forepart of the cabin chamber he entered, then to commander's seat he occupied. That which shows the way he lit up. With bluish aura the chamber filled. The firestones he stirred up, their hum-like music was enthralling. The chariot's great cracker he enlivened, a reddish brilliance it was casting. Unbeknownst to others, in the celestial boat, Alalu from Nibiru escaped. To a snow-hued planet called Ki, known today as Earth, Alalu set his course. By a secret from the beginning, he chose this destination. On Nibiru, exile was certain for Alalu, and his death likely. High above, in the safety of his celestial ship, Alalu watched the planet Nibiru. It was a gigantic sphere suspended in the void. The fire of eruptions, even if more tenuous, flickered, offering an exuberant glow. The radiance of its mighty fullness was the beauty of the skies of other worlds. Like an eagle, Alalu scanned the skies, admiring the beauty of the planet that gave him life. Then, controlling his celestial ship, Alalu turned to the vastness of the outer realms of space with Nibiru at his back. On one side, the darkness of space lay. On the other, the giant volcanic eruptions disappeared into the Great Dark Sea. Thus, the planets and atmospheres that King Enshar had once studied and named after the ancestors became visibly to Alalu. Little Gaga, known as Pluto, offered its welcome. Then the celestial Anzu, the bluish and sparkling planet known as Neptune, made itself felt, offering a good omen with its exuberant hue due to its pure waters. Enchanted by the beauty but following his course, Alalu found Uranus, the planet dedicated to An, with a blue-green glow. But his fate took the course of the first prince of heaven, Enshar. The rings were beautiful and resplendent and seemed to bewitch the celestial ship. Alalu appreciated the rings of the extraordinary planet that would later be named Saturn by humanity. But suddenly, a bad omen had weighed on his heart. A gigantic shadow prevented him from enjoying the far-sighted sun, plunging his entire ship into an icy twilight. It was the gigantic planet Kisha, also known as Jupiter. Swirling storms mixed different shades to the spots that occupied the planet. It was as if Kisha provoked intense lightning. Such activity caused Alalu to get lost in the immensity and for a lapse of time to be confused in the direction to be taken. Upon regaining consciousness of his mission, Alalu gazed at the sun in the distance, gaining space in front of Kisha, who was little by little further away. But his whole body shuddered and the fear of death found the warrior Alalu. It was the Hammered Bracelet, a cluster of rocks and stones grouped together like fatherless orphans. Enshar once told him that the region was protected by a huge asteroid belt. All the Atlanteans who had tried to cross the region previously had lost their lives. The rocks swallowed up the sounding ships that came from Nibiru like wild, hungry lions. Alalu could sense other deceased Atlanteans as he could witness every explosion on every ship of every Atlantean that passed away. Fearing for his life, the valiant warrior Alalu took courage. He wasn't going to give up that easily. He knew that if the secret was true, if his ancestors hadn't lied to him or been wrong, then the gold would be found, and the glory of a heavenly reign was imminent. Thus, Alalu fought face to face with the rocks. He fed the ship's firestones and unleashed a deadly missile against the rocks, which slammed each other with the momentum. And then the weapons of terror were hurled into space. Open up to your king. I am Alalu, a warrior from Nibiru, equipped with a ship, weapons and missiles. He yelled to himself. Nothing will stand in my way. My destiny is glory. A heavenly reign has been prepared for me. As by spell, the Hammered Bracelet opened like a gate, and Alalu could see a path of immense darkness through the rocks. And passing through the hole opened in the Hammered Bracelet, Alalu could feel the glory of his fate. All other Atlanteans had died in this attempt, but not him. Alalu swiftly crossed the sixth planet in the account of the celestial gods. It was a reddish-brown planet known as Mars. His path led towards the sun. When suddenly he saw the new world, the planet was divided into 3 regions. It was covered in white by snow at the top and bottom, then blue and brown in between. It was the 7th planet, without a doubt, that was the legendary key, later known as Earth. Alalu circled the planet and could observe land and oceans, and then he turned on the equipment to check the depths. The penetrating ray was directed, and then the radar showed not only life, but heavy metals deep within its core. The gold was there. The lightning showed gold, a lot of gold. I found it, said Alalu. But excitement soon gave way to fear when he realized what could happen, how to land safely. If it were on dry land, it could explode, and then he dies. And if it were in the waters, possibly the warrior would sink towards oblivion. For any decision, it seemed to be too late. The gravitational pull was strong, and his aircraft's wings glowed. The atmosphere was like an oven, finer than Nibiru's, and its net of attraction weaker. And then the celestial ship began to shudder. Impact seemed imminent, and his heart clenched in agony. And then there was a heavy bang, and small flashes were seen. The ship landed, and Alalu was thrown unconscious, becoming completely immobile, inert, and passed out. There was no dimension by which time could be measured, and with absolutely no sense, the once King Alalu managed to move and realize that he had survived. This was the moment when the first Anunnaki Atlantean arrived on Earth, also known as Ki. Regaining full consciousness, Alalu beheld that his ship had come down on dry land on the edge of wide marshes. Alalu opened the door of his ship. He observed the soil he was on and took his first steps on the beautiful, alluring planet. He walked among the waters of the marshland and shivered with the cold. He realized that he was a lone traveler, possibly exiled forever from Nibiru. In the new world, no one had received him, and so, there too, he was alone. He pondered his family, his reign, the battle with Anu, the dangers he had faced, and the hammered bracelet. Was he exiled from Nibiru forever? His once home seemed farther than ever before. Anguish gripped his chest, and then he returned to the ship to feed and drink from stored replenishments. That's when a deep sleep overcame him, a powerful lethargy that sent him to sleep, and once again unconsciousness found him. Alalu had fallen asleep while his thoughts were lost in all history and all he knew. Alalu had been properly trained and prepared before his reign. He had been among the great commanders and the wise scholars since childhood. Anyone who thought that Alalu was just a supporting actor in this story was wrong. Alalu had learned much from his ancestor Enshar, knowing the heavens and the circuits. By Enshar, his forefather, his knowledge was broadened in a grandiose way, and it was like a profound connoisseur that Alalu remembered conversing with a sage about the secrets of the beginning of Nibiru and the times before them. And this secret that Alalu kept led him to the distant planet beyond the hammered bracelet that would one day be called Earth. A long time ago, before many planets in the Milky Way galaxy came into existence, there was a massive planet named Tiamat in the solar system. It was named after its ruler, the draconian dragon queen, who not only governed the world Tiamat, but also ruled over the entire Orion star system after the Great Orion Wars. It was she who established a connection with a royal hybrid race that had been rejected by most known civilizations in the cosmos. The great and first Atlantean king, An of Nibiru, joined forces with Queen Tiamat, leading to the creation of 12 hybrid humanoids. These beings were evenly split between males and females, and they stood heights ranging from 30 to 35 feet tall. They possessed both reptilian and humanoid characteristics, just as the native Atlantean royals. These offspring, entrusted to An and their descendants, became known as most of the Igigi, the titanic workforce class of Nibiru. However, their peaceful union did not endure, leading to a conflict between the Atlanteans of Nibiru and the dragon queen Tiamat. Tiamat gave birth to her son, Kingu, and raised him to fight in her reptilian army of 50 to 60-foot-tall dragon-human hybrids, pitting them against the 10-14-foot-tall Atlanteans. Tiamat, who ruled over all the planets in the solar system, granted her son Kingu 2 celestial gifts for his leadership role. The first gift was the powerful cosmic tablets of destiny, which allowed the holder to track and control the orbits and trajectories of planets and solar systems. The second gift was an abundance of gold extracted from the planet Tiamat itself. During the celestial battles, Nibiru's main mothership unleashed immensely powerful blows and evil winds upon the planet Tiamat, ultimately obliterating it entirely. Queen Tiamat and Kingu emerged unharmed, but the planet's other half was separated, forming a distinct planet now known as Ki, or Earth. The debris and rocks from this event created what we now call the asteroid belt, or the hammered bracelet. Initially, the planet Ki was abundant with gold, a valuable resource to the Anunnaki Atlanteans. Over time, it became a legendary myth among the Atlantean people, and this was the secret from the beginning and the Battle of the Gods, which Alalu knew all. Finding gold at the hammered bracelet was confirmation. The gold on the hammered bracelet was the hint of gold on top of ancient Tiamat. The secret of the beginning that he had been taught began to show clear signs of its veracity. And it was thus that Alalu awoke, not knowing how long he had slept. The escape from Nibiru was just the beginning of a new story, a new time, and a new world. Taken of courage, Alalu arose, perceiving a luminosity out of his ship, such as he had never seen on Nibiru. It was the sun. Alalu stretched and gauged over the ship and tested the planet's air. It was compatible. Then, he opened the ship's door, and with the hatches open, he breathed the air deeply. And then again. Key's air was undoubtedly compatible. Then, without protective suit, Alalu descended from his ship. The light was too bright, and the sun's rays were overwhelming. He had to go back and put a mask to protect his eyes, and he took the opportunity to equip himself with a gun with a collector. He stepped onto the dark ground and walked into the swamp. With the collector, he tested the water, but it was not fit for consumption. The waters were murky, dark, and greenish. And there was one more important detail that his eyes glimpsed. There were fish, a lot of fishes. Alalu went towards the hills. He passed among the vegetation and appreciated the bushes that gave way to trees full of fruit. Then he took one of its fruits and put it in his mouth. The taste was sweet. Walking on his feet, it was possible to feel the moisture. He then walked towards a pond of silent waters. Once again, he inserted the collector into the waters, but this time it was different. It was possible to drink the water. Joy had taken over his entire body. The new world had breathable air, fruit that could be eaten, and water to drink. That's when a sound, a hissing, distracted him. His weapon in hand, he looked for the source of the sound, and having found it, fired. The sound ended, and the hissing ceased. Then he saw a body that was motionless, lying dead. The creature had fierce eyes in its small head, and out of its mouth stuck out a huge tongue. The body was slender as a rope, without hands or feet. It was a crawling creature. Alalu wondered what kind of creature it was. He had never seen anything like it on Nibiru. Was it a guardian animal, a master of water? Unanswered, Alalu left the creature behind and found his way back to the ship. Nearby, he collected water and fruits. During the journey, the sun's rays sharply diminished, and thus Alalu was astonished. It got dark, very dark. The suddenness with which it had gone dark was surprising. And over the marsh, a light rose on the horizon. A huge red ball that, as it rose, turned white. Alalu was thrilled. From his ship, he contemplated the infinite and the firmament of a new world. Now, and on the way, he could see all the planets. He witnessed and passed through the hammered bracelet. Alalu decided to wait for a new day rise to investigate the detected presence of gold. If the secret of the beginning of this planet were true, then the waters would rot with Tiamat's golden veins. And there, in the waters or lands of Ki, the gold would be found. At sunrise, Alalu left his ship with the necessary equipment and, seeking the waters, he inserted what was needed to find the gold materials. Watching the meter, the symbols and numbers being filled in, the truth came. It was true. He had found gold in Ki. There was gold on Earth. Taken back in enthusiasm that did not belong to him, Alalu entered his ship in a hurry, and in his possession was a radio communication device. He addressed his message to the depths of space, in the direction of Nibiru. Attention, Nibiru. I repeat, attention, Nibiru. It is your king who speaks to you. It is Alalu, your former king. I left in one of the celestial ships. I gambled my life on the luck of my deeds and very skillfully discovered how to break through the hammered bracelet. The rock belt paved the way, and I have reached the planet of Ki. Its fruits, water, and air is compatible. I am Alalu, the first Atlantean to arrive on the planet of salvation. I have found gold. Yes, I have found gold on the planet Ki. The fate of Nibiru is in my hands. The creator of all has proven my royal lineage is a blessed and rightful one. Pay attention and listen to my conditions. And considering this fact, Alalu made it clear. The fate of Nibiru is in my hands, and you must heed my conditions, said Alalu. The notice that Alalu had survived reached the royal palace on Nibiru and was transmitted to King Anu. Anu was astonished. The counselors and sages had also been surprised. Everyone thought that Alalu had died. The commanders were quickly asked to check all the ships and found that, in fact, one of them had disappeared. Alalu surely would have taken it. With the confirmation, Anu reflected on how he should proceed. He decided to order that greetings be conveyed to Alalu. They conveyed his personal message to Alalu over the transmitter. Greetings, Alalu. I, the King Anu of Nibiru, salutes you. There was no reason for you to leave, dear Alalu. Know that in my heart there is no enmity. If thou hast indeed come to find gold, let the glory of Nibiru be exalted, and let salvation indeed take place. Anu's message quickly reached Earth, where Alalu heeded. In a bellicose tone, Alalu readily answered, "If I am to be the savior, then let Nibiru be worthy of my deeds. Let the princes be summoned in assembly and declare my ascendancy supreme. May commanders make me their leader. May they bow to my orders. May I be named king. May my name override Anu on the throne. And may the council and the seven who judge stand by my words." As soon as the words of Alalu reached Nibiru, the consternation was great. How could Anu be deposed? The advisors were confused. Where would Alalu be? Was it true that he had found the gold of salvation? What if it was a ruse? One of the counselors, the oldest of them, made his voice heard in the assembly. He said, "I was the master of Alalu. He knows the secrets from the beginning before Nibiru. Alalu knows the celestial battle, of the gigantic watery planet Tiamat and of the golden veins it inherited. He has deep knowledge. So if Alalu truly did break through the hammered bracelet, he found his destiny on the seventh planet, which we know as Ki." Then a prince of Anu took the word. Alalu cannot demand terms. The calamities were his works, and he lost his throne in combat. If it's true that he found the gold, it needs to be proven. And even if he found the gold, would it be enough? There was silence. The ones who took the word in the assembly was Enlil, the Lord of Command. Enlil is the son of Anu with his legitimate wife, the Queen Antu. The decision of the assembly has been transmitted to Alalu, and then the first Atlantean to arrive on Earth pondered all the points as if he were playing a chess game. The movement of each piece should be meticulous. Alalu agreed and testified of all his journey and the dangers he passed through. From the sampler he took his crystal, from the collector his crystal heart, and inserted the objects into the transmitter for verification. And having sent the proofs over to Nibiru, he addressed new elements of his bargain. He said, "Now that you already have the proof, declare me king and bow to my orders." Alalu's words were stern and sharp. The sages were horrified, but they found that indeed the location of Alalu originated far beyond the hammered bracelet. And to discuss the matter, the assembly met once more. Anu's eldest son had spoken. He was married to Damkina, the daughter of Alalu. He was known as the one whose home was water. Enki was his name. "My birth father is Anu, and by marriage Alalu turns out to be my father as well. The intention of my marriage was to unite the clans. Allow me to bring unity to this conflict. Let me be Anu's emissary. Let me take the gold from Alalu and deliver it for Nibiru. I will make Alalu the proclaimed king on Earth. And if salvation really reaches Nibiru, let a new battle and plan to take place to determine Nibiru's throne." Enki's words were wise, and they filled the hall of assembly. The advisors complied, and Anu pronounced the sentence. "So be it, and a new fight I will bestow on Alalu. Let the victorious be Nibiru's king." The decision was conveyed to Alalu, who agreed. "I will receive Enki on Earth, and may he obtain the gold of the waters. May he carry out the tests, and that in the future a new battle for the throne of Nibiru will take place." Enki addressed the commanders at the ship's location and began the preparation of the mission. Enki would not use the weapons of terror to break through the hammered bracelet as Alalu had done. He would use water. And then the first question arose. If water was the force and not fire, where would it replenish? It was necessary to store the water in the ship. So, The studies and preparations went on for one complete Shah. It was decided to use the largest of the celestial ships. The destination of the return was calculated, and a tablet of destiny was fixed. 50 heroes were selected for the mission. Anu approved the trip, and so the Anunnaki Atlanteans entered the ship, carrying their space helmets and wearing space garments. Enki knelt in reverence to his father, Anu, to receive the royal blessing. Anu said, "Enki, my dear eldest son, it will be a long trip. Safely go and return, and may thy success overtake us on Nibiru." Ninul, his mother, and Damkina, his wife, also bid farewell to Enki, who was the last to join the celestial ship's departure. Then Anzu, which name means he who knows the heavens, was Enki's first commander and pilot of the ship. Anzu lifted the gigantic craft over Nibiru's skies, beginning the mission that would soon reach Ki, also known as Earth. The ship respectfully passed all the planets that honored Nibiru's royalty until it found the fearsome and challenging hammered bracelet. The mission was carefully calculated and prepared, so with jets of water and not with the weapons of terror as Alalu had done. It would smoothly remove the gigantic rocks of the asteroid belt. The whoops of joy as the hammered bracelet erupted were euphoric, but soon gave way to apprehension. Anzu sounded the alarm. To clear a path between the rocks, more water than planned had been used. There would be no water to feed the ship's flaming stones for the rest of the journey. At the head of the gigantic Atlantean ship was Llama, the red planet that would later be called Mars. Anzu, the skilled pilot, slowed the ship and rounded the edge of a lake, landing onto the planet Mars. Together, Enki and Anzu donned their space helmets and descended to solid ground. A water-sucking pipe was ordered to draw water from the lake into the ship, and it was done. With the ship resupplied, once again the sky giant departed with its final destination addressed to planet Earth. And as soon as they approached Earth and the transmitting signal from Alalu was picked up, they could see the oceans and the dry land contrasting with the tones of snow in the two-thirds of the planet. But as they got closer, they noticed the strong attraction of the planet and the weight of the snow for landing in the swampy region. Anzu circled the entire planet once more, seeking the ship's deceleration and closer proximity to the ground. And finally, the gigantic ship descended on the waters of the Earth. That's when a message reached the ship. Alalu said, "Welcome to the land." The gigantic ship took the signal, and Anzu floated the spaceship towards Alalu's coordinates. "Quick," said Alalu, "make haste." Anzu ordered all Anunnaki on board to put their space garments on. The ship's door opened and the heroes descended from the ship. Enki, however, was left without a spacesuit. His heart was beating like a drum. He dived and swam freely in the water and could feel that the waters were deep and much deeper than he imagined it. As soon as he reached the bank, he saw Alalu, who embraced him and said, "Welcome, my son-in-law. Welcome to a new world." And then, as the heroes moved, Alalu greeted each one and bid them welcome. Enki said to the rest of the Anunnaki, "Here on Earth, I am the commander. We've come a long way for an important mission. The future of Nibiru is in our hands. It's a life or death mission. Let's get to work." Anzu, convey to the king, my father, the good news of our arrival on the planet. Soon the sky turned reddish, orange and darkened. Alalu explained, "A night on Earth is far shorter than you can imagine. Let's take the opportunity to rest. Before you can imagine, the sun will herald a new day." And so, night came, and a new day dawned. And with the new day, Enki offered specific tasks to some of the Atlantean crew. Engur would be tasked as the Lord of Fresh Waters, Enkimdu, in charge of the ditch and the dikes, Enbilulu to the command of the swamps. And having known the fruits which his vizier Izimud could distinguish, Enki charged Guru to see for growing food. So the camps were erected, ditches and dikes were built. Kula produced clay bricks, Mushdamu produced the foundations, Enshar studied the serpents and slithering snakes, and Ulmash checked the animals of the waters and the birds of the air, classifying and studying them. Then 6 days had passed. On the 7th day, Enki pronounced, "We came from afar and traveled a long way. We built our camp and analyzed everything around us. Let's call our fenced-in building home away from home and name it Eridu." And keeping his promise, Enki appointed Alalu the commander of Eridu. And then he added, "Let this 7th day be consecrated to our rest, and may it always be the 7th day, our day of rest." As soon as the day of rest was over, the search for gold had to begin. Enki began to suck the marshy waters for 6 consecutive days, and on the 7th day, Enki and Alalu watched the collected metals. There was iron, there was copper, but gold was not plentiful. They worked on separating the metals, and on the next 7th day, then rested. And on the following 6 days, they filled and emptied the crystal vessels so that on the 7th day, they would count the metals. Gold was the smallest of piles. During the entire period of work, Enki was in awe of Kingu, the large moon that shined over the planet. What was this strange connection that the moon and the earth had with each other? What celestial sign was there? And then Enki called the full circle of the moon a month, and they worked on the metals for a few months. Then Enki could see the sun, and to every 6 months he provided the name of a hot season. On the next 6 months, a cold one. There was winter and summer, and Enki called the whole 12 months a year. At the end of each year, he counted the accumulated gold. And with the levels of gold in an alarming situation, the Atlanteans decided to sink their ship through the waters in search of the gold in the depths. Anu kept communication from Nibiru and asked on the amounts of gold, but it was insufficient. And so it was decided to wait for one more Shar. And with more time on Earth, the parts of the ship were separated, and Enki built a chamber. With the chamber, Enki and Abgal flew low over the earth, watching and studying the planet. Enki was intrigued. He and Alalu talked, "Where are Tiamat's golden veins?" And on Nibiru, much apprehension grew. Gold was desired, and not only desired, it was essential. The protests increased, and Anu eventually said, "Hand over what gold you have. Repair Alalu's ship, and may he bring gold to Nibiru." Enki took the weapons of terror from the ship of Alalu and hid them in a distant and secret place. Anzu worked to prepare the ship of Alalu so that it would be ready to travel to Nibiru to deliver the gold as soon as the Shah ended. And it was not long before Anzu observed the absence of the weapons of terror. These weapons should not be used either on skies or land. But without them, it is dangerous to cross the hammered bracelet. Alalu's ship has no jets of water, I have to remind you. The words of the Atlanteans on Earth were heard by the Council of Nibiru. The risk was of not being able to return. And then Abgal took the word to say that he would like to take this risk in Alalu's place. "I will deliver the gold to Nibiru," he said. The Atlantean astronomers studied the best moment, and then Abgal took the ship on the way of Nibiru, carrying with him the gold of salvation. Abgal, the skilled pilot, departed from Earth, destined to Nibiru, aware of all risks in which the mission was involved. Enki and Alalu granted him a safe trip and farewell. Watching his ship take off into the skies, Enki and Alalu were apprehensive, and on Nibiru, the clamor for the arrival of gold was intense. Despite all the expectation on both sides, Abgal was the intermediary who carried the hope of salvation and therefore concentrated on his journey. Luck was with him. There was no doubt about it. Abgal steered the ship around Mars to gain strength from there and launched towards Nibiru. And all this was only possible because he made Enki's crystals shine to pass through the dreaded hammered bracelet. Abgal, in the ship, was heavy-hearted on his journey. Anu on Nibiru was anxious but confident, and in the distance, amid the immensity of space, the reddish hue of Nibiru gleamed, accompanied by gigantic holes in the atmosphere. On Nibiru, people waited for the gold of salvation. Abgal withstood the flaming heat of entering the planet's atmosphere and skillfully steered the craft to the designated landing spot. The crowd applauded and revered the act of heroism. And as soon as the doors of the ship were opened, Anu, the king of Nibiru, gave welcome to Abgal. Meanwhile, other Anunnaki took the gold from the ship and destined it to the appropriate place. Soon, the gold would be reduced to the finest powder to be pulverized into the atmosphere. In the assembly of the Atlanteans, Anu pronounced, "Salvation is here. The gold of salvation has arrived." Though the words of Anu were of glory and exaltation, apprehension was great among the people of Nibiru. Were the theories correct? Would the pulverized gold be able to promote the closing of the holes in the atmosphere? And the answer was affirmative. The rift that had received the gold was closing, and the royal palace was filled with joy. However, with the proximity of the sun, the rays deflected the gold and the crack slowly opened again. The gold was not enough. Anu commanded, "Abgal, return to Earth immediately. We need abundant amounts of gold. Nungal and other Anunnaki will accompany you. Leave as soon as possible." So Abgal and other Atlanteans departed from Nibiru with Earth as their destination. When they arrived at the planet, they were received on Eridu by Enki. After the initial greetings, the work of extracting gold quickly began. What was seen, however, was worrying. The amount of gold was insufficient. Enki and Alalu, day after day, looked at each other and talked. Both of them were intrigued. Their hearts tightened. Where would the gold be abundant? Where were Tiamat's golden veins? Enki made his exploration with often flights. He knew the mountains and valleys, but it was necessary to explore further until the solution was found. Then it went towards the lands separated by the oceans, and finally the bowels of the earth revealed themselves. It was there where the dry land split in two, where the land took the shape of a heart at the bottom. The golden veins of the earth's bowels would be abundant. Enki called the area the Abzu and said, "On Abzu there is much gold." Enki communicated the news to the Council of Nibiru, and a new assembly was formed. As soon as Enki communicated the news to the planet Nibiru, hope returned everywhere. The only certainty was the need for gold exploration. But the question that remained, however, was how to obtain this gold. And in the assembly of Nibiru, Enki's half-brother Enlil spoke. First was Alalu and then Enki. Everyone waits for salvation from Shah to Shah. But now we hear different words. A task beyond the imaginable must be undertaken. To do that, you need proof of the golden veins, and you need a better plan for us to succeed with extracting the gold. And in the assembly, a great division was made. That's when Anu took the floor and uttered a decision. Let Enlil go to Earth. May the evidence be collected, and may a plan be forged. The assembly was unanimous, everyone consented. The words were conveyed to Earth, and Anu commanded, "Henceforth my youngest of sons, Enlil, shall be in command of Earth. His word will be order." And then Enlil began his preparations to start his mission to Earth, accompanied by the female lieutenant chief Alalgar. As soon as Enlil arrived on Earth, he had been received by his brother Enki, who embraced him warmly, welcoming his younger brother. Alalu, however, was not so warm in his welcome, beckoning with simple words. The rest of the Atlantean crew were anxiously awaiting for Enlil, and finally, they could begin their work. The New Earth's mission commander ordered the small ships assembled for exploration. Enki and Abgal took a ship to show the way across the Abzu, while Enlil and Alalgar followed in another spacecraft. They tested the soil of Abzu and discovered gold, but with a lot of sand and rocks. And so they returned to Eridu. In Eridu, Enlil took the floor and said that a new mission would begin. Enlil described a great plan and proposed a great mission. Enlil explained that Eridu had to be enlarged and the Igigi, the Atlantean giant workforce, would be brought from Nibiru. It was necessary to find new settlements. With this, the gold would be collected and then separated from the mixture. Then it would be transported in celestial ships from Earth to Mars, and finally, Nibiru. The plan was very detailed and seemed effective, but Enki and Alalu looked at each other. Enki questioned who will command the settlements, who will be in Abzu. Then Alalu added, who will command the new Eridu and who will supervise the settlements. Anzu then took the floor to question, who will command the ships and the landing place. Enlil was quick and concise in his reply, let Anu come to Earth and let him make the decisions himself. And so it was done. Nungal was chosen as its pilot, and together Anu and Nungal departed from Nibiru, destined to Earth. Enki provided boats to receive the king from the celestial ship that landed on the water. And as soon as he saw Anu, his father, he bowed towards him, and Anu embraced him, saying, my dear son, my eldest son. Then Anu traveled to Eridu, where he was received by Enlil, Alalu, and the other Atlanteans who received the royalty of Nibiru, now on Earth. Enlil received his father warmly and respectfully. Alalu received Anu hesitantly, but as one receives a close friend. A dinner was served in honor to the king of Nibiru, who retired to the cabin prepared by Enki soon after. On the next day, Anu went to the Abzu to explore the area and check the gold. However, Anu was perplexed. Extracting the gold will not be easy, he said, but it must happen. Enki and Enlil will be in charge of building tools and making the extraction of gold possible. Thus, days and nights has passed, until in Eridu a meeting had taken place. Enki spoke. It was I who founded Eridu. However, other camps in the region need to be created. May the land be known as Eden, and may I have it under my command. Let Enlil take charge of extracting the gold. But Enlil was enraged. He said, the plan is unfair. In commands and plans, I am the best, and for Earth's secrets, Enki stands out more. He discovered the Abzu. May Enki be the lord of the Abzu. May I be the lord of Eden. The brothers Enki and Enlil argued fervently. Anu listened carefully and reflected. Enki was the firstborn, but Enlil was his legitimate son with Antu, the queen. Anu observed that discussions tended to have this beginning, but never an end. Besides, one must return to Nibiru, Eden, and the Abzu need a commander. After pondering, Anu announced, luck will decide what will happen, and between the three of us, a decision will be made. Let the fate speak for itself. Then the fate had been decided by luck. Anu would return to Nibiru to be the ruler. Enlil would be the lord of command in the Eden. Enki would become the lord of the Abzu. Thus Anu spoke, let Enlil enlarge the camps of the Eden and be responsible for loading the gold into the ships and for commanding the Atlanteans until the lands meet the barriers of the waters. And may Enki, my firstborn, be the lord of this planet, and we will call it Earth after him. May he be known as the first to land, and let him rule the Abzu. Enlil in its turn said, Enki, lord of Earth, this shall be your title, and I, Enlil, will be known as Lord of Command. And then the decision was announced to the other Atlanteans in assembly. Anu confidently said, I will return to Nibiru with an easy heart. Success is on the way. But then Alalu stood before them all. An important matter has been forgotten, he shouted. The dominion of Earth had been promised to me. This is what was said when I announced my arrival and the discovery of gold. Furthermore, I have not renounced my claims to the throne of Nibiru. It is an abomination that you should share everything with your children. You owe me a fight for the throne of Nibiru. Anu, enraged, said, let us fight, then, for the throne of Nibiru. Let's not wait any longer. This fight must take place now. What was seen was an unprecedented battle. The two members of nobility of Nibiru had arrived on a new world, but they carried with them the ferocity of wild animals. The two 10-foot-tall men fought and rumbled the grounds under them. Anu easily grappling him and knocking Alalu to the ground. Alalu had lost the fight once more, fell to the floor. Anu had laid his feet on his chest. "I win, Alalu. You are defeated." But with sarcasm, Alalu smiled. And as swiftly as a wild animal, he imposed his strength on Anu, pulling him by the legs. Then he bit into Anu's private parts and swallowed. Anu fell to the ground, stunned. Enki rushed to Anu's rescue. Enlil arrested the offender. "Let justice be done," said Enlil in a rage, a cowardice maneuver. "No, no," interrupted Enki. "Justice has already been done. The poison is inside him." He swallowed it himself. Alalu was imprisoned long enough for the law to be fulfilled. Anu recovered and called the meeting of the 7 who judge. Anu took the highest place, presiding over the occasion. On his right side sat Enki, Anzu, and Nungal. On his left sat Enlil, Abgal, and Alalgar. Enlil took the word by justice, and at Alalu's bidding a new fight was made, and Alalu lost. "What do you have to say?" questioned Enki. "The fight took place for justice, and I have lost the royalty." Enlil interrupted Alalu, saying, "And having lost, he committed an abominable crime. Death is the punishment." "What do you have to say?" asked Enki once more. Alalu was silent, and then, slowly and quietly, he spoke. "On Nibiru I was rightful king, and Anu was my cupbearer. I reigned for 9 shahs until Anu himself sat on my throne. We vied for royalty in one combat, and fearing for my life, I departed from Nibiru and found a new world. Here I have found the gold of salvation, and my return to Nibiru in kingship had been promised. Next came Enki to earth, and by appointment he was appointed next to reign on Nibiru. Next came Enlil, claiming Anu's succession for himself, and then came Anu himself. Luck decided and deceived Enki, who has been proclaimed the Lord of Earth, not Nibiru's. And then Enlil declared the command of Earth and cast Enki into the distant Abzu. My heart aches and burns in agony. And then he himself imposed his feet on my chest in victory. Anu spoke, "I beat you in a fair fight, and you swallowed my manhood to interrupt my bloodline." Enlil spoke, "The accused admitted the crime. May death be your sentence." To death said Alalgar. Death said Abgal. Death said Nungal. Enki spoke, "Death will come of itself." Alalu swallowed Anu's entrails. Anzu, for his part, said, "Let Alalu be bound in earth till the end of his days." The king of Nibiru reflected, and then he said, "Die in exile. Alalu must die in exile." Everyone looked at each other. Anu explained, "When I return to Nibiru, Alalu shall come with me in my ship. But he will not go to Nibiru. We will circle around Llama, known as Mars, where there is water and breathable atmosphere. Alalu shall count to the end of his days in Mars' solitude, and for a safety landing, a small celestial ship can be used." The decision was unanimous. Anu proceeded, "Nungal shall pilot the great ship. I will remain on Nibiru, and Nungal will return with other Atlanteans from Nibiru to Earth to work in gold mining. Anzu will be with us to descend the small ship with Alalu on board." And so it was done. Anu took leave of his sons and the rest of the Anunnaki Atlanteans. And then the royalty of Nibiru took flight from planet Earth. Approaching Mars, Alalu was sent into exile, and in the vicinity of the Red Planet, Anzu said to Anu, "I will not return with the small celestial ship. I will land with Alalu on Mars, and I will stay with him. When he dies from the poison in his entrails, I will bury him as a king deserves. And as for me, I've already made my name. Others will say about my name that I was the companion of a king in exile. I have seen and will see things that others will not have seen on a strange planet, facing things unknown. My name will be remembered as a hero." Alalu was in tears. Anu was amazed. And then he uttered, "I lift my hand upon you, O Anzu, and I swear this oath to thee. On the next journey, a ship will circle Mars and land before your presence. If I find you alive, you will be proclaimed the Lord of Mars. And when a station is established in Mars, you will be the commander." Anzu nodded in thanks and agreement, and the preparations for the installation in the small ship began. They were provided with supplies and space garments with eagle-like helmets. Then the ship left towards Llama, disappearing on the horizon. For 9 Shars, Alalu was the king of Nibiru. For 8 Shars, he commanded Eridu on Earth. And on the 9th Shar, he overcame fortune and met death on Mars. On Earth, a long discussion took place until the next steps were defined. Enki asked Alalgar to oversee Eridu, and he went to the Abzu, where he designed technological equipment to pierce the bowels of the Earth. He sent the plans to Nibiru for the engineers to build. Enlil, in Eden, surveyed the activities and numbered the mountains, valleys, rivers, and plains. Enlil then took delight in the snow-capped mountains of the north of the Eden, and then he began to prepare a platform for the celestial ships he wished for himself. Meanwhile, the royal ship traversed space towards Nibiru. Anu was received with feasting, and he gave instructions to everyone. Intermediate stations needs to be created. The first on Mars and the second on the Earth's moon should be considered. He organized new studies of all the planets and predicted a caravan of celestial ships from Nibiru to Earth, and from Earth to Nibiru, tracing different routes. He created a new class of spaceships and selected new Atlanteans known as Igigi, who were to learn and train for the mission. He transmitted the plans to Enki and Enlil on Earth and received the blueprints to build the equipment for the team of engineers from Enki. Then, a new mission left Nibiru for Earth. There was 50 heroes, and this time it carried chosen women of Nibiru. Ninharsag, the exalted princess, half-sister of Enki and Enlil, also daughter of Anu, was a part of the new crew to the Earth. Ninharsag was skilled in the arts of medicine and knew how to care for illness. Ninharsag had heard of the vertigo caused by the sun and the Earth's rotational cycle that was hurting much of the Atlantean heroes. For that reason, she prepared a cure. The mission from Nibiru encircled Mars as promised by Anu. Upon approaching the land, they found Anzu near a river, lifeless. That's when Ninharsag pushed everyone else aside and began to act. She took the pulsator device out of her bag and pointed it at Anzu's heart. Then she took the emitter out of the bag and directed the life-giving emissions of its crystals to Anzu's body. 60 times Ninharsag directed the pulsator and emitter towards Anzu, and the 60th time Anzu opened his eyes and moved his lips. Ninharsag poured the water of life over him and moistened his lips with it. Then she placed the food of life in his mouth, and so the miracle occurred. Anzu rose from the dead. Recovering from unconsciousness, he told of Alalu's last moments and how he prepared his funeral and covered the mountain that rose from the plain with stones. Then the Atlanteans carved the face of Alalu upon the rocky mountain and left the face uncovered on Mars. Ninharsag said, "Let Alalu's face eternally behold the land where he found gold. And as for you, Anzu, King Anu, my father, commanded the promise for you to be fulfilled. 20 men will accompany you here on Mars, and a way station must be built. Spaceships will leave Earth and arrive here loaded with gold. The gold stored here will be collected by celestial ships that will carry the gold to Nibiru. Anzu, you are now deemed the commander of Mars. My life belongs to you, O Ninharsag, the great lady, said Anzu. My gratitude to Anu knows no bounds." And then the celestial ship that carried Ninharsag and other Atlanteans departed from Mars and towards Earth. So Anzu and other Atlanteans remained on Mars with the intention of creating an intermediary way station. Meanwhile, the gigantic ship was heading towards Earth, observing the moon and analyzing the possibility of another way station there. Nungal led the ship to the ditch in the waters closest to Eridu, where they disembarked on a pier built by Enlil. Vessels were no longer needed. Enki and Enlil welcomed their sister Ninharsag. She told them all the news. What happened on Nibiru and the death of Alalu, the survival of Anzu on Mars, and the construction of the way station. Enki expressed his approval, and Enlil was perplexed. Ninharsag said, "Our father Anu's decisions are unalterable. It's his word." And another news. "I brought relief from the sprouted illness. I brought the seeds of healing." From her pouch, Ninharsag drew the seeds. They would be planted, and after their growth a juice could be made. "Our people must drink this juice, and then all diseases will go away," said Ninharsag. "But these seeds must be sown in a warm and cool place. They need heat and water to feed." "Come to the ship," Enlil said to Ninharsag. "I know the perfect spot for it." Thus, the sister and brother entered the ship towards the snow-covered mountains next to the cedar forest. Enlil and Ninharsag talked and exchanged love and affection. Ninharsag told Enlil about their son Ninota, explaining that the prince was ready to join them on Earth. Enlil, father of Ninota, was the son of Antu, the lawful wife of Anu. He was the legal heir, the successor of Anu. Ninharsag was the half-sister of Enlil, mother of Ninota, and the first daughter of Anu. Extremely beautiful and full of wisdom, Ninharsag was skillful and quick to learn. The two, Enlil and Ninharsag, caressed each other, but Enlil did not pour his life-giving fluid into Ninharsag's womb. And then they headed back to Eridu. On the way, Enlil showed the landscape and presented the Eden in all its extension. And from this, Enlil explained his whole plan. "Far from Eridu, where the dry land begins, will be my abode. Lhasa will be its name. It will be the place of my command. It will be located on the banks of the Branu, the river of deep waters. A city will arise in the future, and its name will be Lagash." Between the two, in the plans, I drew a line, and near will be a city which be called Shurubak, the city of refuge. This will be your city, my dear sister. It will stand on the central line and lead to the fourth city, Nibiru. Nibiru will be the crossing point, the heaven-earth link. It will be home for the tablets of destinies and will control all our conquests. With Eridu, there will be 5 cities that will exist forever. And then Enlil demonstrated a crystal tablet with several markings and explained that in the future there will be a place for the ship to arrive from Nibiru to Earth. Ninharsag was surprised at the complexity of it all. In this way, she understood Enlil's disagreement with Anu's plan and the creation of an intermediary station on Mars. "It is a magnificent plan," said Ninharsag. She was visibly emotional. Enlil's plan contemplated the creation of a city for her. It would be the healing city, a healing station. "But," warned Ninharsag, "do not transgress your father beyond this plan. Don't offend your brother Enki either. You are as wise as beautiful," Enlil said. Meanwhile, in the Abzu, Enki also conceived plans. The plans of Enki and Enlil were very different. Enki thought where he could build dwellings for the Atlanteans, and to build his own home, where he could enter the bowels of the earth. From his celestial ship, he measured the entire length of the Abzu and carefully surveyed all regions. The Abzu was a land far away and beyond the waters of the Eden, a rich and perfect land. There were rivers that crossed the region with enormous flow of water. Enki built his abode beside running pure waters, in the midst of the Abzu. In this land, Enki determined the place of the deep so that the Atlanteans could access the bowels and core of the earth. Thus, through interior tunnels, they could discover the golden veins. He installed the equipment to crush the extracted gold. Then, they would be transported in celestial ships and taken to the landing place in the Cedar Mountains. And from their spacer ships, they would transport the gold to the way station on Mars. And so, several extraterrestrials arrived on the planet. Some went to the Eden under Lord Enlil's responsibility, others to the Abzu with Lord Enki, and others were directed to Shurubak with Princess Ninharsag. On Nibiru, the heaven-earth link, Enlil grouped and commanded all missions there from the heavens in the sky. Enki traveled between Eridu and the Abzu constantly, overseeing all activities. At the Mars, construction and much was progressing, and the way station received large numbers of working-class Atlantean giants. 2 shahs passed until on the 7th day, Anu gave an order and decree in an official announcement. On Earth, that was the 7th day, a day of rest decreed by Enki in the beginning. 600 gathered to follow Anu's announcement. Enki with his advisor Isimud, and Nungal the pilot, Alagar, the lord of Eridu, and Abgal, who commanded the landing place. In the Aden, Enlil watched the transmission with Ninharsag and the maidens of her host who also accompanied her. On Mars, together with Anzu, diverse workmen gathered, and then Anu spoke. Greetings all. You are heroes, the true saviors of Nibiru. The fate of the entire planet is in your hands. Your deeds will be remembered for all eternity, and your names will be glorified. From now on, those on Earth will be called the Anunnaki, meaning those who from heaven to earth came, and for those who are on Mars shall be called Igigi, those who observe and see they shall be. Everything needed is now ready. Let the gold begin to arrive, and let Nibiru be saved. But Anu, in the distance on Nibiru, could not foresee the approaching of confusion that would come. Starting with the dilemma of his own children. It all started long before the arrival of the Anunnaki on Earth. Enki was the eldest son of Anu, but he was not, however, the legitimate heir, as he was the son of a concubine. Ninharsag, the eldest daughter, had been chosen by Anu to marry her older brother Enki, his eldest son. Thus, the firstborn of the two would have double seed and be the legal successor. However, Ninharsag was in love with the other half-brother, Enlil. And so Enlil left his seed in Ninharsag's womb, and Ninota, the prince who might soon be on Earth, son of Enlil and Ninharsag, was born. Enraged at that time, and still on Nibiru, Anu had forbidden Ninharsag of marriage to anyone no matter who. Then Enki married a princess, the daughter of Alalu, the beautiful Damkina. Enki and Damkina also had a son who was called Marduk, and it meant one born in a pure place. Thus Enki, Anu's eldest son, had a son by marriage, Marduk, and Enlil, Anu's rightful heir, had a son, Ninota, but not by marriage. Enlil's story in this respect had been developed on Earth, not Nibiru's. Enlil had fallen in love with Sud, who was one of Ninharsag's maidens while she was bathing in a cold mountain. Enlil took Sud to his abode in the cedar grove and offered her the elixir of the fruit of Nibiru that grew on Earth. The two drank, and Enlil made his intentions clear. However, Sud told him about her virginity and that her lips had never kissed anyone. But he laughed and kissed her, depositing the seed of life in her womb. Ninharsag deeming the action as immoral and denounced Enlil for judgment before the 7 who judge. Enlil's sentence was exile to a land of no return, far from all cities. Abgal was Enlil's pilot, who took him to a distant land amid inhospitable mountains. And descending the ship to the ground, Abgal said, "Enlil, I did not choose this place by chance. In a cave near here, Enki hid the weapons of terror that were in Alalu's ship. Take possession of the weapons, and you will get freedom again." That said, Abgal departed and Enlil was left alone in that place. In the Eden, Sud spoke with her commander Ninharsag. She told her that she was pregnant, and in her womb Enlil's son had been conceived. Ninharsag conveyed the news to Enki, the Lord of Earth, whom at that moment and time was supreme on Earth. Enki decided to summon the 7 who judge, and at the judgment Sud was questioned to the possibility of accepting Enlil as her husband. And having accepted, Enlil returned from exile to marry Sud, who was now called Ninlil, the Lady of the Mandate. After this, a son was born to Enlil and Ninlil. His name was Nannar, the Bright One. And it was said that Nannar was the first child of 2 Anunnaki Atlanteans of Nibiru conceived on Earth. It was a royal seed from Nibiru conceived on Earth. As soon as Nannar, son of Enlil and Ninlil, was born, Enki decided to talk with Ninharsag. He had built his house in the Abzu and had adorned his dwelling with a bright metal taken from the depths, which he called silver. He also used lapis lazuli. Then he invited his half-sister to go with him to the Abzu and abandon her worship for Enlil. In the Abzu, Enki reminded Ninharsag about their engagement and their love. They kissed each other and Enki asked Ninharsag to give him a son, and from their union, a daughter was born. Enki was disappointed. Ninharsag encouraged him to know his daughter. But Enki said, "I will have a son with you, my sister." And so, another relationship they had, and another daughter was born. Enki shouted, "A son! I need a boy." Enraged, Ninharsag pronounced a curse on Enki. "May all food be poison in your viscera, that his jaw hurts and that his teeth and his ribs hurt." Enki's advisor, Isimud, summoned the Anunnaki to beseech Ninharsag for relief from the curse. And Enki swore to distance himself from Ninharsag's private parts, who immediately, one by one, removed all disease from Enki's body. Ninharsag thus returned to Eden to never marry no one, as was the bidding of Anu, her father. Enki, in turn, brought his son Marduk and his wife Damkina to earth. Enki had 5 more children by his wife Damkina, and also by concubines. Thus were born Nergal, Gibil, Ninagal, Ningishzida, and Dumuzi, his youngest son. On the other side of Anu's generation, Enlil and Ninharsag brought their son Ninota to earth. Besides this, Enlil had another son by his wife Ninlil. Ishkur was his name. On this way, 2 clans settled on earth. Later, the clans of Enki and Enlil would go to war, which would be known as the War of the Gods. In the Abzu, gold was extracted from the golden veins of the earth. The golden metal was conducted to the landing place. From there, the Igigi transported the gold in spaceships to the intermediary way station on Mars. And from Mars, the precious metal was delivered to Nibiru in celestial ships. On Nibiru, the gold was ground to the finest powder and thrown onto the atmosphere for the protection of the planet. Slowly and step by step, Earth's gold healed Nibiru's wounds, holes and cracks. Enki built a dazzling abode in Eridu, and from the earth he raised it to heaven like a mountain, took to live with him Damkina and Marduk. Enki proceeded to teach Marduk various things. On Nibiru, Enlil established the link between heaven and earth, with a construction equally dazzling. Their words were heard on Mars and on Nibiru. The rays that came from there could seek the heart of all lands. His eyes explored all the lands, and it was impossible for an approach that could not be seen from his black satellite, an all-seeing eye. From the top of the chamber, Enlil studied everything and watched everyone and everything. He studied the secrets of the sun and the moon and recorded them in secret formulas. He improved the celestial zenith and fixed the 12 houses, and with the 12 emblems he marked the family of the sun. The tablets of destinies gleamed in their royal abode, while the class of workers worked very hard. The earth's cycles left them astonished, and the portions of the healing elixir were given to them in small quantities. In Eden, the Anunnaki were weary. In the Abzu, the work was strenuous. The Igigi on Mars complained constantly. And by Anu's command, Anzu, the commander of Mars, was received on Earth. Enki and Enlil might reveal to him the Abzu and the secrets of the heaven-earth link on Nibiru Ki. Anzu defended the Igigi of Mars, who asked for a rest on Earth whenever spaceships went back and forth between Earth and Mars. Received in Enlil's chamber, Anzu intended to steal the tablets of destiny. He was a prince among princes and had promised relief to the Igigi. Enlil left the shrine and Anzu remained at the entrance without suspicion. Then Anzu seized the tablets of destinies and departed from the celestial chamber towards the landing place, where the Igigi had gathered, awaiting his return to declare Anzu the king of the earth and Mars. And from the top of the chamber, Enlil, perceiving the theft and afflicted with treachery, he spoke angry words to Enki, questioning about Anzu on Nibiru Ki. The Anunnaki seek the words of Anu. The order was to stop Anzu and retrieve the tablets of destiny. But Anzu, in possession of the tablets, was invincible. Despite this, Ninota stood ready to fight and recover what was rightfully his father's. Javelins were hurled at Anzu, but they missed. Arrows were launched, but they also missed him. So a mighty weapon was prepared, a Tilu missile. The instruction was to approach, and when they were united, Ninota and Anzu wing to wing, the missile would be launched, creating a whirlwind and a storm of dust. And then, like a ball of fire, Anzu fell. The earth shook, the heavens shook. Ninota took the tablets of destiny and made Anzu his prisoner. Quickly, Ninota was applauded at the landing place, and the Anunnaki who had been taken prisoner had been freed. And before the judges, Anzu was sentenced to death. Then the fluid of life of Anzu had extinguished. Ninota said, "Leave your body to the vultures." And Enki answered, "Lead Anzu's body to Mars, that it may be buried beside Alalu. The same ancestral seed they both possess. Let Marduk, my son, conduct Anzu's corpse, and let him abide there, that he may become Mars' new commander." Meanwhile, on Earth, Enki and Enlil discussed changes to avoid confusion. Ninota, who was an expert in the interiorities of planets, suggested a new city of metal for new shipments to be made. Thus, those who were weary could return to Nibiru, and new Anunnaki could come to Earth in their place. In this way, in the Eden, new construction began, and it took 3 Shars until the city of Bad Tibira be created. Ninota, who had given the suggestion, was the first commander. In this way, the flow of gold to Nibiru was easier and faster. Those who were on Earth and Mars, many of them returned to Nibiru. Alalga, Abgal and Nungal were among them. Received as heroes, the inhabitants of the planet Nibiru, especially the younger ones, wanted to participate in the missions and mainly wanted the emotions. They did not know what great calamities there were on Earth, on Mars, and in the heavens. In Bad Tibira, gold was smelted and refined, and then sent to Mars in spaceships. Pure gold was carried from Llama to Mars in celestial ships. And as Ninota had conceived, gold flowed from Abzu to Nibiru. However, what was not noticed was the malaise of the newly arrived Anunnaki. Enki turned his attention to other matters in the Abzu and could not see what was happening. So Enki created a new complex called the House of Life and invited his son Ningish Zida, who is known in the Egyptian pantheon as Thoth, to work with him. Enki was especially curious of some living creatures that lived among the tall trees and used their front paws as hands. It was in the tall grasses of the steppes that strange creatures could be seen that seemed to walk upright. The secrets of life and death were carefully studied by Enki. The House of Life was in the Abzu, and it had all manner of carefully crafted tools and equipment. Enki was absolutely enchanted and absorbed, fully occupied with his studies. And Ninota in Bad Tibira was the first to notice a decrease in gold mining. Enlil sent Ninota to the Abzu to find out what was happening. Ennugi, the chief officer, accompanied him on the excavations. He had heard the complaints of the Anunnaki Igigi with his own ears and had told Ninota of all he'd heard. The work here is unbearable. Ninota told the matter to Enki, who quickly called for Enlil. The Lord of Command, Enlil, arrived at the Abzu and settled in an abode near the excavations. That's when a group of Anunnaki workers attacked Ennugi, the chief officer of mines. They set fire on their tools and then approached Enlil's abode and home in protest in the middle of the late night in Adam's calendar modern-day South Africa. Kalkal, the gatekeeper, barred the door and summoned Nusku, Enlil's advisor. Nusku called out to the Lord of Command from his bed and said, "My lord, we are surrounded. The Anunnaki workers are here. They protest against the heavy work. Enki and Ninurta were summoned on prompter device." "What is happening?" asked Enlil, waking up from deep sleep. "Who instigated this hostility?" Enlil asked the rebellion. In unison was answered, "We have, all of us." Enlil relayed the events to Anu over holographic communication as well, and who quickly replied, "We need the gold. The work cannot stop." Enki pondered. "The work is too heavy, we all know it. The rebellion is not against Enlil, it is against the work." Ennugi, the chief mines officer, was freed and consulted. He said, "Since the heat on Earth increased, work is unbearable, intolerable." Ninota said, "Let the rebels return to Nibiru, and may other Anunnaki come in their place." Enlil asked Enki, "Is it possible to create new tools for the Anunnaki to avoid the tunnels. Enki said, "Call my son Ninghashzida, also known as Thoth. I must speak with him." And after they had talked, Enki announced, "There is a possible solution. Let's create a primitive worker. Lulu will be its name, and may this new being carry the hard work of the Anunnaki on its shoulders." Anunnaki royals were speechless. Who had thought of a similar solution? Would anyone have thought? And so they called to Ninharsag, who was skilled in medicine, genetics, and aid. Ninharsag answered, "I never heard of anything like it. All beings descend from a seed, each being developed throughout eternity from another as hybrids of another species. None came from nothing." Enki smiled and said, "How right you are, my sister." Then Enki said, "I must reveal a secret of the Abzu. The being we need already exists. All we need to do is brand it with our essence, with the essence of Nibiru. Let me create the Lulu, the primitive worker, and we will create it in our liking and image," Enki said. End of Tablet 5.